Welcome to U.S. Immigration TV. Well, the Trump administration recently unleashed a whole new level of immigration enforcement that has sent shockwaves, fear, and anxiety among the immigrant community. In particular, the Trump administration recently released an announcement effectively saying that people who overstay their visa could be considered an enforcement priority. As the directive or the email states, and I quote, "At the direction of Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, or USCIS, are ramping up the review of immigration records and will take immediate, appropriate action to crack down on visa overstays, I say, stemming from the Biden administration's failure to enforce the law," unquote. What this means is that a person who entered the U.S. legally, let's say on a non-immigrant visa, such as a tourist visa, a student visa, work visa, but then they overstay and are out of status, tago ng tago, would now be considered an enforcement priority. Well, I will tell you, this is a radical departure from Trump's campaign promises and policies when he was first elected and re-elected. You know, for example, when he first came down the escalator at the Trump Tower to announce he was running for president, he made the point that yes, he would focus on enforcement priorities, but they would be criminals and gang members. In fact, his executive orders emphasized the fact that the government understood its, and I quote, "sacred obligation to prioritize the safety, security, and financial and economic well-being of Americans," unquote. Accordingly, it would be the policy of the U.S. to enforce immigration laws against all inadmissible and removable aliens, and this is the important part, and I quote, "particularly those aliens who threaten the safety or security of the American people," unquote. Well, it was really understood by most people that visa overstays were really not considered threats to public safety or national security. They were not terrorists. They were not gang members. They were not felons or violent felons. For the most part, people who overstayed were effectively law-abiding, coming to America to work hard and to contribute, and are desperately seeking a way to legalize their status. Now, it's true, visa overstays were violating immigration law and, yes, are subject to deportation or removal. But it was really always viewed that their violations of overstaying was something like jaywalking or maybe driving 2 miles over the speed limit. You know, yes, they were breaking the law, but the public felt that the government should be spending its time going after the felons, the gang members, and the terrorists, rather than people who are overstaying their visa, and again, like I said before, desperately seeking ways to legalize their status. But with this recent announcement, that may no longer be the case. I mean, recently in the news, there are stories, for example, about an ICE raid at a nail salon or at a graduation ceremony where parents were coming forward, looking forward to seeing their children graduate, and even at Home Depots, where workers typically gather outside for day jobs. I mean, I really do not believe that terrorists and gang members are outside Home Depot looking for a day job to do roofing, landscaping, or whatever. Those are people looking for work to contribute. There are now anti-ICE protests going on in Los Angeles which are turning sometimes into riots. The National Guard is being called out. Now, I know this can be a challenging and traumatic time for those who are out of status, including visa overstays, as well as their families, whether they're U.S. citizen spouses or children. But here are some things you may want to consider to do now that the Trump administration is getting even more strict. Consult with an attorney to consider what options may be available for you to legalize your status or to have possible claims for relief or deportation defense, just in case you're caught. I have already posted videos on my YouTube channel on what to do if ICE visits your home or your work, so you may want to view those videos for some tips or advice. Another suggestion I have is consult with an attorney before filing anything, whether it's a petition, an application, or naturalization, to make sure you are eligible for that benefit, that you have all the necessary documents and evidence, and that the forms are filled out correctly. This is to lessen the chances of denial. You may even want to have an attorney represent you at any hearing or interview to make sure your case is explained well and there's no miscommunication which could result in a denial. In fact, I've heard of some cases where ICE is waiting outside the USCIS interviews to pick up people. There are also situations where when people get their case denied, ICE may be waiting for them or they are immediately placed in deportation. Even people applying for U.S. citizenship, they think it's easy. And what's going on sometimes is the officers are now digging deep into how that person got their green card. Did they get it by mistake? Did they get it by fraud? Something that was missed. And even though they've been a green card holder for many years, suddenly that's being questioned and they're being charged with having never been lawfully admitted. Now, I know how a lot of people think and what they thought in the past. And that was, you know what? I don't need an attorney right now. I'll do it myself. And you know what? If I mess up, then I will go to an attorney. But under Trump, I think it's a whole new ball game. It's almost like somebody with a sick relative saying, I don't need a surgeon. I can do the surgery myself. And if I mess up, then I'll go to the doctor to fix it up. But you know what? If you do the surgery yourself, you may flatline the patient. Same thing here. If you first try to do it yourself and the case gets denied, you may be put in immediate deportation, or it may be very difficult, if not impossible, to undo the damage if you said the wrong thing or gave the wrong documents or did not apply for a benefit for which you're entitled. So that's why I'm saying you may want to consider having an attorney from the beginning to the outset. Just like you would have a doctor perform surgery, let an immigration attorney handle your immigration matter. Now, I'm so aware that today people are so afraid that they're not even going outside out of fear ICE may be picking them up, whether it's going to a graduation of a child, parties, or even to shop at Home Depot or going to the mall. And I want to assure you that I am monitoring the situation and will continue to bring you the latest news and developments, especially with Trump's enforcement priorities, because who knows who may be next. I hope you have found this video informative. I will continue posting videos which I believe may be of interest to you, of value to you, whether to yourself or to someone you know. So therefore, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. I'm Michael Gurfinkel, and thank you for watching and subscribing to U.S. Immigration TV.